Welcome everybody to our second webinar, which is part of our Train the Trainers program. Just a few words about the project and the Train the Trainers program to provide a little bit of context about today's webinar. As just in Bioeconomy Giants, we are seeking to promote cooperative and circular bio-based business models, but also to foster new forms of collaboration between rural actors and bio-based industries in order to boost bioeconomy initiatives all across Europe. For that, we have different actions or plan in the project related to the funding, to the development of digital tools, and also last, and this one is part of the trainers program on training. So the initial phase in our project is this Train the Trainers program, in which we are organizing online trainings focusing on different aspects such as side stream potential, which was the first webinar. This one focusing on innovative roadmaps and other following ones. But there will be a second phase which we hope you will be also participating, which will be the Bioeconomy Bootcamp open call. If you want to have more information on this, please check our website and you will find the information. So focusing on this Train the Trainers program, we have four online trainings organized. One was, as I already mentioned, in December, this one in January. Next one on circular business models and market update will be in February. And this is breaking news. We'll have a fourth one that will be organized in March, in which we intend to display and share best cases examples to boost replication. Very briefly, as you already know, the webinar on SciStream potential that took place in December, the recording is already available online, as well as the materials that are delivered together with the webinar, which focus on the metrics for measuring knowledge exchange, supporting institutions, and cluster and network mapping. As I already mentioned, if you want to have more information, you can follow us on social media, and also all the information regarding the trainings is available. The second webinar will be also delivered together with the materials regarding the monitoring feedback mechanism to track progress in initiatives. And the previous one, the metrics for measuring knowledge exchange is delivered in this one. Sorry for that mistake. And the third webinar will be also delivered with additional contents on recorded expertise and skill and communication and visibility. And the fourth one related to the best case, we will provide it together with funding and support instrument. So stay tuned for these informations and this webinar. And now I would like to present wait, today's speaker. I think yes, Isabel Marco, which holds a PhD in chemistry from the University of Madrid, the Complutense. She has also been specializing in medical chemistry during her career. She has more than 50 years of experience in industrial property, technology watch, technology transfer and innovation since 2015. In which she also specialized in economic and strategic valuation in tangible assets and advanced technology sectors. She's currently head of the technological development project at Pons IP, where she leads activities in technological analysis, exploitation of results, support of innovation and value creation in research and development organizations and consortia. So the floor is yours, Isabel.
Thank you, Maider, and welcome everybody to the session today. I'm going to share my screen, so I don't know, Maider, if you have to stop first, and then I share, or...
You can go ahead, Isabel.
Okay, now. Okay, I think you are watching my
Yes.
first slide. Okay, so during the next hour, I try to guide you through a structured way of thinking about innovation in bioeconomy, specifically focused on biomass residues and side stream from the agri-food sector. This session is part of this bioeconomy giants framework, and most of you are clusters, cooperatives, or intermediary organizations. So this is important because the perspective that we will take today is not for that kind of laboratory researcher or a single company. Is more focused on organizations that need to coordinate, prioritize, and transfer knowledge to many different actors. So I think you are in that side. So let us start. Oof, I can't change the... Oh, the first problem. I don't know why I can't change now the slide. Sorry. I'm going to stop sharing. And again. Let me... Fingers crossed. So yeah, sorry.
Good.
Uh, so we continue with this bioeconomy challenge. I would like to start with a sentence that maybe will accompany us through the entire sessions, is that innovative roadmaps don't predict the future. Sorry, because of the notice, I think you know it. They can help organizations make better decisions step by step, but uncertainty, okay? This sentence captures the spirit of today's talk because, as you know, in bioeconomy, uncertainty is not an exception, it is the norm. Technologies are evolving, markets are not always clear, regulation plays a major role, and many actors are involved. So in this context, innovation is less about guessing the future and more about deciding wisely at each step. As you know, in bioeconomy, innovation is not mainly about predicting the future, but also making better decisions, and this in this uncertainty framework. But why is so uncertainty? As we have said, we are dealing with biological resources, variable raw materials, evolving technologies, emerging markets, and strong regulatory constraints. So in this context, traditional linear innovation approaches often fail. So we cannot think about a traditional business plan at the very beginning of the process. So we have to take in mind these roadmaps. Okay, so we have to answer very practical questions like
Sorry to interrupt you, Isabel. We are still in the Bioeconomy Challenge slide. Is this right? Now we are in the Innovation Roadmap. Okay.
yeah, we are,
Okay.
yeah. It's just to introduce that we have to take in mind several questions like where should we start, which valorization routes make sense for us, which ones are too risky or too immature or too complex. So I think you have to take several things in mind. So what is an innovation map? We have here the main idea that an innovation map is a strategic decision-making framework that helps organizations move from an idea to a resource to validate solutions. Always, always, always step by step. So it is not a business plan. It is not a technical development plan, but it's a way for organize when and why decisions are taken based on the information available at each stage. Okay, so here we have four different dimensions of a roadmap. Every innovation roadmap connects four dimensions that we can see here. The available resources, the technological options, the market opportunities, and the regulatory framework. Overall, of course, we are thinking in this agri-food sector. In traditional innovation, companies start with a market need and they look for a technology, but in the agri-food bioeconomy, innovation often starts with a research that already exists. I don't know if you are familiar with this and it sounds to you, but I think this is the more common thing. So this inversion of logic changes everything. It means that innovation is less than inventing something new from scratch, but more about finding the best possible use for what we already have. Okay, so the global trends shaping valorizations, we have a strong reinforced by a set of global trends. For example, I put here four. On one hand, they are clear that we have these circular economy models where waste is not longer seen as something that we manage at the end of the project, but as a resource that should be integrated into value chain. We've seen in the last years that there is an increasing pressure to replace fossil-based raw materials, for example, by revenue and bio-based alternatives. So we are here in this challenge, in this trend. At the same time, consumers and industrial customers are demanding more sustainable products. Also, we have here that we have to demonstrate the sustainability of these trends. It must also be technically scalable, regulatory compliant, and by economically sustainable. So I think we have here a great a trend that we have to face also. And this is exactly why structured approaches such as these innovative roadmaps are becoming essential because they help organizations navigate this increasing demanding context. Talking about this biomass analysis that I think you have done in the previous sessions, if I'm not wrong, we have to say that every innovative route must start with a solid analysis of the biomass itself. This is not a laboratory exercise, but a strategic one. Before thinking about technologies or products, organizations must understand the real characteristics and constraints of the side stream that they want to valorize. So the key questions here are, for example, these ones. We have, where exactly is the waste generated in the process? How much is produced regularly? Is production stable or seasonal? How variable is its compositions? It depends on if it's spring or summer, for example, that we will see an example later, or how it is currently managed and what the cost. So for that, we have a dual evaluation. We have in one hand, the technology one, and in the other hand, the market one. Okay. From a technological perspective, we assess whether they are known processes, how mature they are, and what kind of infrastructure they require. From a market perspective, we assess whether there is a real demand, what problem is solved, and whether regulation allows market entry. So in some way, they are a bit different way to face the evaluation. A frequent mistake is to assume that if something is technically feasible, the market will automatically appear, and it doesn't work like this. And this is sometimes the reason because of many spin-offs or startups failed in a short time. So in reality, many technically elegant solutions fail because they don't fit the market needs or regulatory frameworks in this case that, as you know, is very critical. So innovation roadmaps force organizations to confront these issues early when changes are still possible. The problem is when you only see the business plan and don't take it in mind. So in this route from the lab to the market, we can see these roadmap stages. We can imagine a roadmap structure like a journey from early ideas to market. But this journey is not linear, and sometimes it could be rushed. Each stage exists to reduce, as we have said before, the magical word in this session, the uncertainty, before moving to the next one. So we can talk about 4 stages. Typically, the roadmap starts with the ideation and selection of routes, followed by the proof of concept and early validation. Then we have impact assessment, and finally, regulatory and intellectual property considerations if they fit in the concrete example. Again, at each stage, there are key questions, and how faster we can move. It depends on the. We have to say that it's case by case. Okay. Sometimes the first stages you go through them very quickly, and then you stuck in the third one, or it could be different because depending on the case. Okay. So at some point in the innovation process, technology on its own is not longer enough. So eventually, innovation must translate into a value creation. You know about this, I'm sure. This is not only an economic value, but also environmental and social value. This is precisely where innovative roadmaps become especially useful, because they help connect technological development with a real-world impact. This point is particularly important for cluster and cooperatives as you, because your role is usually not to develop products themselves or to become industrial producers. You try to value in and enable value creation for the members of your cooperatives and your clusters. You try to help identifying viable opportunities, reducing uncertainty, and facilitating access to market and partners. So one effective way to approach to this is to create these bioproduct platforms rather than single products. When a single reduce is used to generate multiple applications with different value levels, organizations gain flexibility. This allows you to adapt the market changes, diversify commercial risk, and avoid dependence on a single outlet of customer, for example. In practice, platforms make innovation more resilient because they provide alternative routes of one application to become that, for example, becomes less attractive during the time when the time passed. However, moving from technology to value creation almost always requires collaboration. So we have to think always in these industrial synergies, of course. Finalization with this bit huge introductions, we have to have in mind these key takeaways. So first, this strategic prioritization. Second, the risk reduction. And finally, the coordination, especially for you, for the cluster and cooperatives, because roadmaps are not only innovation tools, but a powerful coordination of mechanisms. So, as a conclusion, we have here. I thought I have here the example, but it becomes later. We are going to start with the main with the design of a roadmap. So here we have exactly what we have to focus on. As a starting point, we have the diagnosis of the potential. So here we have why diagnosis matters. Because a poor diagnosis leads to unrealistic roadmaps. Good diagnosis allows organizations to calibrate ambition, timing, and investment, and make the foundation credible decision-making process. Diagnosis doesn't mean perfect data. Sometimes organizations fail in taking too time to decide because they want to have the perfect diagnosis before starting work. But with the sufficient information is enough to decide what to do next. Okay, so the goal is not certainly, as you know, because we are going to move in a kind of the uncertainty, como we said since the very beginning, but we have to be clear. So the goal is not certainty, but clarity. Okay, so we have to have this clarity and know what we are going to do. But if we don't have the perfect data, it doesn't matter. We can continue. Because the important is connecting the diagnosis to the roadmap design. This diagnosis directly shapes the roadmap. The kind of roadmap it will depend on this diagnosis. Because, for example, limited volumes, high variability, or missing capabilities imply exploratory roadmap focused on validation and learning, not only in industrial deployment. So this connection is often overlooked, but is critical. Okay. here we have three essential inputs that we will have in mind. A roadmap needs at least these three inputs to progress. If you work with the roadmaps, maybe you will have in mind more than these three, but we think that these three are essential. We have a potential matrix to compare options, an initial TRL assessment to understand the maturity of the process, and a clear view of the actors involved. These inputs allow a structured prioritization. At this point, we have done something that is absolutely essential, but often underestimated. We have taken the time to understand what we are really working with. We now have cleared the picture of the science stream, taking into account, for example, its characteristics, its limitation, its potential, and the context in which it exists. The diagnosis doesn't give us the answer, but give us something much more valuable, that is a realistic starting point. So, as we said before, maybe it's not perfect, but it helps us to know what exists, and it should be our real starting point. However, the diagnosis alone doesn't create innovation. So knowing the potential of the science stream is useful to translate the knowledge into the structured decision over time, but you need something more. And so here we have to design, of course, the innovative roadmap itself. We have the starting point, so now we move to the design. We have the diagnosis, and then we have to design. The roadmap starts with a problem solution. I put here 4 stages. Each stage should be divided in sub-stages, and maybe it depends on the person who is working with their roadmap, but we can think in 4 stages. In my roadmap, I have started with the problem solution, fit, then moves to technical validation and early testing. And each step is designed to reduce this assistantly, sorry, because this word is very repetitive in the session, and it's impossible to say by being assistantly before increasing commitment. Okay, so the innovative roadmap is fundamentally about sequencing decisions. As we said, we have to go step by step, and you can't move to the next step before decide how to do this next step. Okay, if you go too quick, maybe you will fail during the process, and if you go if you don't progress, maybe we will always have a problem. So it's a kind of balance between continuing the process and don't stop because you don't know the answer. But it's a sequence in these decisions. If the decision is wrong, maybe you can go back and then again construct the earliest the stage before, and then jump into the next one. Okay, so in the problem solution fit, we have, for example, this kind of questions: what problem are you solving, from whom, why these solutions. Then you have to face that this technical feasibility. When we jump to the proof of concept, okay, we manage this in the laboratory. How it works in the small scale. If we think in an industrial scale, we have to think about this. So, what are not doing yet? Because at this stage we have we have not spoken about the business models because the focus is on plausibility, feasibility, and risk, but not a financial optimization. So this why sometimes the corporations of the small companies fail because they think about the financial optimization, they think about business models of business plans, but not about the roadmap on which what we are. Here I have I've done I think an example about citrus peel pectin and risk of early optimization, and this beautiful girl, an avatar, speaks us about why the company failed because of they plan thinking of business, but then they realize that they have not taken into account different things that, for example, this raw matter depends on the stationary, if it's spring or not, the market changes and everything. I can't reproduce the video because we have tried before and it doesn't work. So you will have in the repository, so you will see the full example. Here you have, and in the slide, some key ideas that why business models come too early and what the roadmap changes when they have been taken into account since the very beginning. Okay, but the video is self-explanatory, so I think it would be useful for you. Good. So we jump to the next. So what we have next? Next, we have these practical tools for you, for clusters and cooperatives, for example. We have this valorisation decision trees. I don't know if you use them, but these make you these tools are simple, visual, and easy to replicate. You will have them as a template, and the purpose is to support decision making. Okay, because maybe you have something very clear in your mind, but you have to translate it to the CEO of the company or to a group of researchers. And I think if you have these decision trees, for example, that are very logic, you can translate the complex questions into simple sequences or yes or no decisions. So I think it could be quicker the step, a single step stage that we have said before. Beside of the decision trees, we have the prioritization based on barriers and feasibility addresses. That is another common challenge. In many cases, the most attractive route on paper is not the easier one to make to them or to translate it into an industrial pathway. So I think you have to consider these barriers alongside potential value. The roadmaps helps to identify these realistic starting points, even they appear less ambitious at first. So maybe the paper supports everything, as you know. So it could be okay. This could be great. Is really attractive, but at the end, maybe it's not the more realistic one to start. Okay, so this prioritization makes progress more achievable and builds confidence, okay, over the time. Finally, you have modular roadmaps to recognize a reality that is particularly relevant for for the sector where you are. So while others prefer some time of of risky, what you have to find is to reduce this risky, to try to find a way that the uncertainty is reduced. So the modular roadmaps allow smaller and less mature members to participate in an earlier stages, while more advanced members can move faster is a key of experience. So the key idea is that barriers are not failures. So we will find barriers along the process, but it doesn't mind. You have to. You don't have to think in that I'm failing in the process. You have to go back and then jump again to the next step, depending on how you are seeing how to overcome the barriers. Which barriers are more common and how to overcome them? I have identified 4. Here we have the lack of data, as we said in the very beginning. So maybe you don't have the data as you wanted to start, but you have to think, okay, enough. With this, I have to work with. So we can say that this is probably the most common barrier in biomass valorization project, this lack of data, or we can think, oh, data is incomplete or inconsistent. Very often decisions are made based on partial information. Assumptions or small samples that are not representative of real operating conditions. In most cases, we are working with laboratory samples, or we are working in very small proofs. But in the food sector, as this one, this problem is amplified by the natural, as we said before, variability of biomass. When you buy a product, for example, in chemistry, you are sure that the composition, but as you know, the biomass is very variable, so the composition can change with the season, with the supplier, depending on the processing conditions or storage, for example, how long the biomass has been stored. So making prediction is very, very difficult. The key point here is that perfect data is rarely available, and waiting for it usually means not moving at all. And as we said, you have to jump stage by stage. So what really makes a difference is how data is organized and shared. If you have clear the idea, you can jump into the next one. When you have more data, maybe you can move again to the first stage and see the data, and maybe fine tune, do a fine tuning of the next one. But perfect data don't exist. We can say. Jumping into the second barrier, I think maybe is this one: difficulties in coordinating the different actors. This barrier is less technical and more organizational, but it is just it's critical also. Biomass valorization project almost involve different actors. We have the producers, the processors, the technology providers, and an industrial partner. So each of these partners operates with different priorities. So they have different success criteria. So coordinators could be huge. producers often focus on short-term operational issues, for example, while technology developers think in terms of development cycles, or industrial partners look for reliability and scale. So if these perspectives are not aligned, friction could be appear, okay? I don't know if we have the experience, but that it could be quite common. So here, the innovative roadmap acts as a neutral coordination tool. It provides a shared language and a common reference that helps to align the expectations without forcing everyone into same logic, okay? Each panel, each actor will have a different logic, but if we try to have the same language and make roles and responsibility decisions depending on who is going to manage what, the roadmap reduces misunderstandings and facilitates this constructive dialogue. So I think it will be really important to do that and to have this in mind when you are constructing the roadmap. The first barrier is the mismatches between expectations and real timelines. This is very linked to the previous one. Each actor will have a different expectation, and so this could be a problem during the time. So particularly in biomass valorization, this is often that underestimation of timelines, for example, especially when moving from laboratory results to real operating conditions, could be frustrating. So technologies may work at a small scale, but scaling them, validating them, and integrating them into existing processes takes time. And as we said before, the paper supports everything, but when you move to the real world, it's okay, impossible. We have to change this, and you have to manage a lot of people involved in the process, and you have to try to make them to understand why the change, the fine tuning is needed. Okay. So instead of vague promises, milestones should be defined on maturity and evidences, okay? Again, we can think about, okay, but we didn't have enough data to know how long it will take, or how difficult could be the scalability. Okay, doesn't matter. We have to think that now maybe you have more data, and so you again go back to the previous stage and make the needed changes, and then again jump into the following one. The point is that you have to learn during the process, okay? So together with these three barriers, we have this initial investment and perceived risk. That is important because, as you know, the biomass valorization often requires investment, and you know if the investment will return, okay? This risk could paralyze decision making, but it's important to start with these mini pilots and try to reduce this decision making stopping. I have to be sure if we will have the return, and then we are not talking about innovation. Okay, so when we think about innovative roadmaps, you have this risk always on the table. So I put here a very short slide about the pattern intelligence because maybe you don't use it, but because it's an often underused tool in bioeconomy, but maybe it's important to facilitate this decision making. Okay, it's not only about protection. You see the word patent and you say, okay, yeah, I have to protect. No, it's not only about protection, but it's a powerful source of technological information. Okay, you can find the state of the art, and maybe it's not to reinvent the wheel, as we said in many cases, because maybe you are stuck in a single step of a process, of an industrial process, and you are trying to do yourself a huge R&D program, and maybe someone before have done. So maybe it's important to do this technological search before starting something. Okay, it could be this way, the kind of pattern intelligent, when integrated early in the innovation process, becomes especially valuable. Why? Because pattern intelligence helps to avoid this duplication, as we said, not reinventing the wheel, identify saturation and detect open innovation spaces. Because maybe you don't know that you are going to go to a very concentrated part of the market, and maybe you have more options of moving a bit to other opportunity. So it allows organizations to understand whether a valorization route is already crowded or whether there is still room to explore, as we can say, and make a difference. Okay, so this is not a legal exercise. Okay, we are not talking about patents, but we talk about patents in the way that they are the resource of the information. Okay, so we use patents as a resource, not only papers, not only scientific papers, that maybe is what you usually read, but also the patent documents. So this is only for your information. So I don't want to dip more in this, but just you to know that it could be interesting for your partners. Finally, for example, we have this case study about Transbio. I don't know if you know about this. This is a real European project funded the European project. The project finalized last year, and it regards to valorization of fruit and vegetable processing byproducts. Here we have some information about the project itself. This project was focused on the valorization of byproducts from the fruit and vegetables, as the title said. Processing industry such as skin, pulps, and seeds, and transforming them into high-value byproducts. This case is particularly relevant because it reflects many of the challenges that maybe you face day by day. For example, an heterogeneous biomass streams, multiple technological options, diverse actors, and high uncertainty around scalability, and market relevance. A starting point and motivation of this project. The starting point of TransBio was a very common situation in your sector. Fruit and vegetables processing generates a large volume of byproducts, including skins, pulps, and seeds, as we said before. These materials are often underutilized and end up being used as low-value animal feed, for example, or simply treated as waste, leading to grow this cost of managing the waste. So at the same time, these byproducts contain valuable components such as sugars, peptines, and fibers. These create a clear opportunity to transfer them into high-value byproducts and to better align processing activities and global sustainability, and of course, this big trend of circular economy trends, okay? So the key question here was not whether there was potential, but how to identify which valorization route were realistic and worth pursuing it. So here they have the 3 stages that we said before. At the first stages, the first stages that was diagnosing and characterization. In the project, they analyzed the physical and chemical properties of different fruit and vegetables of the byproduct to understand the composition. So here we have this data. In the second stage, they made a technology screening and validation. So several biotechnological fermentation routes were explored in parallel, including different ones. You can read here the examples. And in the third stage, they move into pilot trial and early validation. So during this time, and of course, and mainly in this third stage, also a market feedback was collected. Okay, so as you can see, they haven't realized or about the market since stage 3. So of course you have to have the market in mind since the very beginning, but this is not the real important point in an innovative roadmap. Of course, the market should be aligned with the process because you want a return of an investment. But if you only think in the market, maybe you will have problem in the previous stages related with the technology or the actors, okay? So it's important to have this in mind. Of course, during these stages, we have different actors. We have agri-food companies, research centers, biotechnology specialists, and market and economic evaluators. As we said before in the previous slides, I have identified 4 potential barriers. And in the example, in this case study, we are going to see how they manage each barrier. For example, for barrier about biomass variability, they use representative samples of multiple trials and build a composition database to guide. Okay, so maybe they use a kind of by-side products during summer and another one that it was better during autumn. So that was the point in this project. About coordination challenges, you have here that they make a committee to coordinate and they have regular meetings. I think it is really common, and I'm sure you do with your partners. For example, in the barrier regarding the technology readiness mismatch, they defined clear validation phases and decision criteria. we have here the typical KPIs is okay. We are facing these KPIs in the timeline we have in mind. Okay, if not, what we have to do? What's the problem? And you have to manage this and decide how when to invest more in one stage or move to pilot routes, for example. Finally, regarding the scaling uncertainty, they phase approach from lab to pilot and collect market feedback early. Okay, we should. I'm going to share with you the full case study because we move really quickly during the session, but with all the data and all the different more clear to show you how they do this and how they find the solution for each barrier. Okay, the project was really successful, and so we have to what the TransBio case shows very clear is that the successful biomass valorization is not following a rigid recipe, as we can see, or a copy, or they didn't copy a single solution. So they move from different byproducts and taking into account the characteristics, they try to plan how to solve the problem they will finding during the process. They apply a structured way of thinking. So starting from the realistic diagnosis, then sequencing decisions, then addressing barriers early, and using the intelligence at the end is what we do in every day, no? So the natural question after seeing the case is, how can I start applying this in my organization? For that, we have here, this is what I said. We have here the first 10 actions to develop an innovative roadmap. This is a practical checklist to start. I'm sure you've done more than one roadmap, even if you don't name it as a roadmap. But here we have these 10 actions. Of course, clearly identify the science stream, define exactly what waste or byproduct you are working with, and see the characteristics they have, okay? Second, we have to quantify volumes and variability. How much is produced? Is it seasonal? How consistent is the composition? As we said, maybe sometimes it depends on the storage or the supplier. We can different compositions. Okay, can we manage this composition, or is that something is possible? If we can find the solution to this variability, maybe it's not our byproduct. We have to find another one. Okay, so we jump into the third one. Understand the management cost. Of course, I'm saying that market and financial issues couldn't stop us. But it's important, of course, to know what does it cost to manage the waste today, and which cost will have the whole product, the whole process. Four, we have to identify possible valorization routes. Of course, as we said before, if we are flexible and we have these multiple ways to use our final product, better. We have more opportunities in the market, for example, and we have a problem in the line, we can jump into another one. Perform first TRL screening. If you work, for example, in European projects, you are very you know that it's really important always to know which is my TRL, when am I, and when I want to be in 1 to 3 years. Okay, so we have to know if what we have in my hands is a laboratory research, a pilot scale, or we are very real to commercial step, or so we are in a high TRL. Depending on this, of course, the roadmap will be different, because if you are in a very high, maybe the first stages are very easy for you because you have done before and is done. So the sixth one would be assess initial market interest. We are in the second half of the 10 actions. So we now talk about market. It is a real demand of your resultant product. As we said before, sometimes we have to take in mind the market, of course, since the very beginning, just to know if we are going to have someone who's going to buy us. Because if not, okay, your idea could be very attractive and great, and technology very, very impressive, but if you don't have market, okay, or you have a great alternative, or you are not going to do nothing in the market, so are going to fail at the end. 7, you have to identify key actors and capabilities. So who has the biomass, who has the technical knowledge, who could be your industrial partner if you need it. In this point, is really important what we said before about the pattern intelligent because analysis. Because sometimes the people who patent is the people who is interested in this. So maybe you can find partners or licensees or collaborations in patents. Okay, so in this point 7 is really important, this patent analysis. 4. I'm not going to talk about regulatory because it's really difficult for me, and I'm not. I have not the expertise. I'm sure you know more. So, but as you know that it's really important, depending on the final product, where are you going to move it, where are you going to, which is your market. So it's important to know which will be the regulatory barriers that you are going to face with in the future, and what you have to do since the very beginning to avoid the risk of don't fit with the regulatory issues. Okay. In 9, we have this is the point that you have to prioritize one route to explore. Okay, maybe you have different ways, but you have to prioritize. You have to do a list and say, okay, I'm going to start with this. If we fail, maybe we have this alternative, this one. Okay, you have these fallback positions. I think it's quite interesting to have fallback positions, but you have to prioritize and be consistent with the route that is your first one. Because if you change just because you have a problem during the process, maybe you will find the same problem in the second one, the third one, and at the end you're going to say, no, this is not for me. So based on all the above actions before, you have to focus on this first, okay? And you have to have clear, as we said since the very beginning too, the important word here is clear. You have to have the clarity of why you choose this route. Because if you don't have this idea of why this is the best, maybe you are not going to defend it during the process when you find problems. So it's important to know this is my priority route, but okay, why? and have this clear, okay? So at the end, we have to define first validation actions and milestones. Again, if you are familiarized with projects, you always have your KPIs, your milestones. For example, I have here, what specific steps will you take to taste the root? What are the decision points? Which will be our yes or no to go to the next step? I think it really important. You have to have this stream, and of course, what do you consider to be successful or not? Okay. So as a final idea of the session, I want to highlight this. Innovative roadmaps are not about predicting the future. They are more about structuring decisions under this uncertainty. The 10 sections that we have seen are not technical tasks. Sometimes they have very technical matter. They are based on technical data, but no, they are not technical tasks. And they are more decision-oriented step to ground your innovation process in reality and increase the quality of the decisions, okay? Is a making decision process at the end. Is a question of yes or no. So yes, go ahead. No, why not? We go a step before, and then when we have cleared the previous stage, we jump to the next one. So I think this is all from my side. I don't know, Olga,
Yeah.
you have some questions?
Thank you so much, Isabel. We have a couple of questions, but we need to be really quick because we are a little bit
out of time,
on the
sorry.
schedule. Yeah. Someone is asking if you could share a valorization decision tree as a template or something like that. Is this possible?
Okay, I have no decision tree right now prepared. But yeah, I will find one, and you can put it as training materials, as we said before, that the case study for Transbio, and the video of the example before.
Perfect. And second question. Yeah, someone is asking if this patent intelligence is a search tool, a public platform, a service, or what?
Okay, it's a service. It's a tool. It's a service that started with a patent search. Okay, so for example, if you are managing this kind of different routes of citric pills to make succinic acid. Okay, a person who is expertise in this patent search is going to do that search, and then we have, with the huge amount of patents that will be found, we do the analysis, and with analysis we can see the trends in patenting. For example, you can find a mature technology, so maybe the problems are not in the table on the table. They are not technical problems, but maybe the market is not really high. Then you have the actors, because of the person who are behind the patents, the companies that do the submission. So you have the actors that have the technology in their hands. You can find for example, the countries. You can do a geopolitical or geostrategy about where I can go when I have my product. It depends on it's a consultancy service. Okay, it depends on the questions. We can find the answers.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Isabel, for all the presentation. And Maider, I give you the floor just to close the session. Thank you both.
Thank you.
You should be able to see already my presentation. Is this right?
Yeah.
The slide on the webinar. Okay, so
Yeah.
really quick, I'm just gonna take a few more minutes from your time. So, quick reminder about the materials that will be uploaded in our webpage. We will have the recording of this webinar and also the two materials that are delivered together. One on the monitoring and feedback mechanism to track progress in bio-based initiatives development, which covers why it's relevant to track the progress, some considerations before requesting the feedback, what needs to be measured, and some recommendations for the bioeconomy actors. Um, the second material is a matrix for measuring knowledge exchange, collaboration, synergies, and networking, where you can find why measuring this knowledge exchange matters, what is the knowledge exchange, what needs to be measured, and the metrics for each one of the categories. Okay. Uh, Again, this information will be uploaded in the website, but we will be also posting all the information in our social media. So please follow us so you can get information also on the upcoming actions and activities that we have planned. And that will be everything from our side. Thank you very much for coming today and joining us in the webinar. We hope it has been interesting for you, and keep a close look on what we have organized for the upcoming months.